The claim that I am going to be reading is that recycling harms the environment more than it actually helps. I'm here to prove otherwise. The claims that the advocates stated are recycling uses more resources than it saves. The second one being the recycling process produces more waste than it saves. And thirdly, it costs more money to recycle than just to throw away. Okay. The first claim, the advocate states recycling uses more resources than it saves. Firstly, that's not exactly true. Actually, it saves more raw material recycling than not recycling. Without recycling, we have to get more resources from somewhere, which is from the raw material, and the world, as you know, has like a finite amount of resources. Even the advocate's source, Daniel Benjamin, who wrote 8 Myths, I think, about recycling, says that claims that recycling has the potential to extend the live raw material stock. Also, he says that recycling-based secondary manufacturing generally uses less energy and consumes less raw material than primary manufacturing, which basically means when producing items from recycled material uses less energy and raw material than producing items from raw material directly. He also says that in his secondary claim is that it uses only vast like water and energy, and talks about oil, but he doesn't talk about like the resources that we would be using from the world. Also, from the recycling guide, it says that 70% less energy is required to recycle compared to making items from raw materials. If we didn't recycle paper, it takes 24 trees from like rainforests to make 1 ton of newspaper, and if we keep using that instead of recycling, eventually we can run out. Also, the advocate states that trucks used for recycling have to drive 100 miles plus to reach these recycle zones, but also you have to take into account these trucks also have to drive to reach dropping zones, and also they're called landfills. Moving on to the second claim, the advocate claims that recycling causes more waste than it saves. He uses sources that I couldn't even find on the internet or books or anything. And he says that it produces toxic sludge and pollution. But I say that if we don't recycle, that what it's going to go to is these landfills that even Daniel Benjamin, the author of 8 Myths of Recycling, says that in decomp it causes these toxic gases, methane gas, which is harmful to our health. Also, these landfills, given they're not close to society, but eventually if we keep using them up and using them up, where are they going to go? Also, the advocate states that machines used to recycle produces carbon dioxide in large quantities, but he has no source backing this information up. Okay, and then I found that in the recycling guide that the government when recycling paper, it causes 73% less air pollution than if made from raw materials. Also mentioned in this guide, it takes plastic 500 years to decompose, which means like 500 years of these methane gases coming out from the landfill. The third claim, he says it costs more money to recycle than to throw away. And he got these sources that I couldn't find, but he says that it costs $50 per ton for the government to pick up trash and $150 to pick up recycling. But I found that's not true. Michael Sharpio, the director of U.S. Environmental Protection Agency office, says that a recycling program can cost anywhere from $50 to more than $150 per ton, and trash collection and disposal programs can cost anywhere from $70 to more than $200 per ton. So this shows that recycling can be cost effective. Also, Michael says that it should cost cities and taxpayers less than garbage disposal for any given equivalent amount of material. So no matter like what garbage disposal is more. So although recycling does cost money, it costs more to dispose of it in a landfill. And so with that, the sources that he used, I couldn't find 5 of them, and so in conclusion, like, I would prove that recycling uses more raw material. So recycling doesn't use more resources than it saves, and the recycling process doesn't waste as much as it saves, and recycling doesn't cost as much as regular disposal. And that's it.
All right, the claims are labeled clearly. You're doing fine on that. In fact, on most of the claims, you also start off with a clear statement of what your claim is. So instead of just giving us information or a narrative leading in, you're making a declarative statement, which I do appreciate. I think that makes your argument a lot clearer. On the first point, you are using some good evidence to talk about the sources, or to talk about the amount of raw materials that are going to be recycled. I thought that was pretty good. There's a statistic on the amount of raw materials that you present here. There's not much discussion of the advocate's claim about the water and the energy uses. So it's basically loss of raw materials versus loss of these other things, and I'm not sure how to compare them or whether or not they are comparable, so I think your argument there could be a little bit stronger. The transportation issue, you basically suggest it's a trade-off, and again, the absence of evidence by the advocate seems to be the main reason that you might get away with a claim like that. On the toxic argument, or about the problems of information on, or the material in landfills, I thought you did an okay job talking about the toxic gases. The claim that there are limited access to landfills, I think that's largely an assumption on your part, and you need to provide some evidence on that. The air pollution issue and the longevity of the plastic in the landfills, I thought that was okay, although why does it matter if it takes it 500 years to decompose? That was not explained to me. Okay, if it's in the landfill and it takes it 500 years, like if we were going to use that land for something else, or if it was producing the toxic gases that you're talking about, that would be a little bit clearer. On the pickup costs, I thought you did a good job providing evidence that gives us a comparison on those costs, and makes it seem like the argument is at best moot and perhaps comes out in favor of the recycling process. You do, in a couple of places, make an argument or a challenge about the inaccessibility of the advocate's evidence and your inability to evaluate it. I think you need to make a clearer claim there. Otherwise, it's just passing information, and it might affect the advocate's credibility to some degree, but it also affects our evaluation of you. Well, maybe you're just not as good a researcher as that person is. Did they provide you with the URL address? You couldn't find it in the searches. If you think the advocate's making crap up, that's a dramatic claim to make, and you're going to need some proof on that. And then we got the Porky Pig ending, even after a good summary, which I didn't understand. Stick with the good summary. You know, we don't need the that's all, folks.